people learn to read like birds learn to fly. And they just walk by the library and they get it. And about 20% of the population is blessed with those skills. And on the other end of the spectrum, where I lived, about 25% of the population, those have difficulty learning how to read, write, and spell. And adults that can't read, we have some things in common, like we grow up thinking we're dumb, and we bought into a big lie about our brains, because we can learn to read, and it's never too late to learn to read. And the key to teaching people like me to read and write and spell is proper instruction. And proper instruction comes from teachers and tutors that have been properly prepared. And they come from universities. The teachers come from universities that properly prepare them. I graduated from, I started out at 48 years old at a public library, had a volunteer tutor, 65 years old, never did any teaching at all. She just had a love of learning, and she had a love for reading, and she thought no one should go through life without knowing how to read. And she got me to about the 6th grade after a year and a half of working with me. And I thought I died and went to heaven because I was reading. But I only had about just a baby step there. Because once you get that taste of it, you want more. You want to get out of the 6th grade and go on to the 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and you want to go to college. And you want to do everything you could possibly do with this beautiful brain that you have. And so I went into a program, the next program, because I actually outgrew my tutor. She got me there. And that's not negative at all. That's positive. I outgrew. I went to the next level. I had some diagnostic tests, and they discovered something in that science there. And I had a severe auditory discrimination problem. And then I spent 125 hours working on what they discovered and the problem and then the treatment. And I went from the 2nd grade nonsense word attack skills to the 12th grade level. Boom! I got it. You know, when you get one of those big, I got it, finally. And so I have still been learning to read. And people ask me, how long did it take you to learn to read? I said, it's going to take me the rest of my life to learn to read. Because you keep reading and reading and you get better and better. How long did it take you to learn to write? Oh, the rest of my life, because you just keep doing it and you keep doing it. And pretty soon you really fall in love with it. I have had an opportunity. I kept this secret, you know, on the tape you saw. I really guarded this secret because, well, you know why. I told you why, and some of you know why. Because if you can't read, people think you're dumb. And who wants to go around advertising with the sign, I'm dumb? Not going to do it. And we aren't dumb. We are not dumb. And some people think that our brains have something to do with language. It's a skill that can be taught. And science backs up what I experience. I mean, I'm a walking proof of that it's never too late to learn to read, and that there's proper instruction, and I got that proper instruction. And I started, this is the hard part of being an adult, and because we're suspended in our childhood, academically, spiritually, intellectually. And so when we come to the learning table, for whatever reason we come with a train full of baggage. You know, we don't believe that we can actually learn to read. We're just there, you know, and we can't believe it. And I almost quit my tutor for a month straight. I just said, this poor lady thinks she's going to teach me to read, but she's not going to teach me to read because there's something broken up here. You know, it doesn't work. And she proved me wrong. I want to, how about the students in here? Raise your hands if you're a student. students. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Am I talking for you? Am I saying some things that the rest of the world needs to hear? Okay. How about tutors, literacy providers, teachers? How about you guys? Okay. All right. All right. Well, I wanted to start out today with a prayer, and since I'm in North Carolina, I'll go ahead and include God in my prayer. When I'm other places, sometimes I just leave out the Lord and I call it something else. But here it is, my start. And the gift of dialogue. Dialogue unties knots and opens doors, resolves conflicts, makes persons greater. It is the bond of unity and the mother of brotherhood. Lord, make us understand that dialogue is neither an argument or a battle of ideas, but a search for the truth between two or more people. Make us understand that we need each other and that we complement each other. We have something to give and a need to receive. I can see what others cannot, and they can see what I do not. I would like to share a few verses of my poetry. One of the things adults do when they probably the first thing adult new readers do, we write poetry. And people sometimes they think that it's because we got this heart full of all kinds of feelings. But we write poetry mainly because we don't know what a complete sentence is. So we got it real short. Okay? It's kind of an inside the Beltway story about us. Some of you may think I'm old, but in my mind, I don't think I am old. When it comes to reading, I am bold, or so I am told. And perhaps I am bold because I know more people need to be told. It's as important to teach an adult in America to read as it is to teach a child to read. And we have sort of this myth, and I'm not saying it's not important to teach a child, it's equally important. But anybody that needs the opportunity to learn to read should have it. And learning how to read changes lives. And that you, tutors and teachers, change lives and sometimes save lives. And I can tell you 1,001 reasons why America needs to know how to read and people need to know how to read. But one of them is because we need to love one another. And teaching a person how to read is an act of love. And we know love is the greatest of them all. I get to say that here, and I'm talking to you here, but if I was talking to a bunch of people that wanted employees to read and do a better job, then I'd be singing a different song. But I'm going to be talking a little bit about love, but we all know there's a lot of other reasons. It gives you so much independence. People ask me sometimes, what's the difference between knowing how to read and not knowing how to read? And I say, it filled a big hole in my soul. And I think if America teaches all of us to read and write and spell, it's going to fill a big hole in America's soul. And you can't address the education issue without dealing with basic reading and writing. Because think about school. What is the language of success in school after the 3rd grade? It's the written word. And so we find out early that we don't fit. I'm going to read some more to you, and then I'm going to tell you a story. And my wife will be telling me about my time. She'll be pushing me along. And they say she's the better half. But sometimes I think she's about the better 3/4, you know. You're supposed to just be half, okay. I have had a chance to address a task force in California. And I've been invited by a task force here to speak. And in California, it was a from the public education and they were asking how they could improve special education. And I submitted a 10-page written comments, and now I have a... What are you saying? Speak into the microphone. She's telling me I can't read the whole thing. What's our time?
About 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Well, I'm gonna read part of it.
They want to hear your story.
I know. For the first 6 years of my life, I was told by my parents that I was a winner. Like millions of other innocent children, I was sent off to school with high hopes of learning how to read. However, I was also one of millions of children and adults that have difficulty learning how to read. In the 2nd grade, I ended up in the dumb row. In school, by the time I was 8 years old, I was a loser. I did not learn as a lad at 8. I learned to read as a man of 48. And I have to say that was great. But don't you think a man who learned at 48 could have, should have learned at 8? And wouldn't that have really been great? Thank you for being here today to engage in this critical dialogue. And it does untie knots. And I will respect my better half. And one of the reasons I like to read, I know I can talk. I talked my way through life for 48 years. And finally learned to read. I write it down. So I like to show off every once in a while and let you know that I can read and I can write. And what's so amazing to me, when I write something, I say, whoa, how did that idea get down there? And it's talking back to me. And it gets to talk to the rest of the world. What power. That's why we hunger for it. And that's when we don't have it, we hurt. And we're outside. And we get outside of that box when we're 3 years old, 3rd grade. Like I said, I went to school with high hopes. My parents loved me. Said, you're going out to school to learn to read. I got there that first year. It wasn't bad. First year, you just line up and behave yourself and enjoy recess and color some things. And then they move you on to the next grade. And it's a little bit of the same. And then they introduce the ABCs to you. Uh-oh. Stuff is getting real hard for people like me. I had math skills. I could do my math. I could count money before I could count money, make change before I got to the 2nd grade. So no, a teacher didn't have to teach me too much about counting money. I knew already how to count it. And then I went on to the 3rd grade. And the 3rd grade, and I call that little boy and little girls that go in the 1st and 2nd grade, we're really innocent. We're innocent. We didn't do anything. And we just went there. And then pretty soon, we're required to do these other things that we can't do. And we can't satisfy the teacher. And they have bluebirds and redbirds and buzzards. And they have the dumb row. And they send a message out to us, the buzzards and the dumb row, that, we don't fit. We're kind of on the outside of it. And the demands for reading is increasing. I'm past to the 3rd grade. Now I'm past to the 4th grade. And in the 4th grade, the innocent little boy is left behind. Because now comes the native alien. And he is being left out. And when people are left out, when they're oppressed, in some way, a human spirit rebels. Whether it's passive or aggressive. And I did both. And by the time I got to 5th grade, I was in trouble. I would rather turn my desk over when the teacher called on me than be embarrassed. And I'd be sent out of the room, sent to the principal's office. In the 7th grade, I spent most of my time in the principal's office or out in the hallway. I was suspended from school. By the time I was in the 8th grade, I was expelled from school. And I actually made a lot of teachers cry. Let's put it that way. But they made me cry also. And so by the time I'm in the 5th grade, I'm at war. This is not a friendly place. Now, I didn't have any trouble outside of school. I didn't have any trouble with the police. I didn't have that much trouble at home. I did have 5 sisters So and then no brothers, so you know I'm going to have a little trouble there. But and I was loved. Now I'm in the 5th grade, and I'm not doing anything, and they're still passing me along. And I get to, sometimes people ask me, why don't you ask for help? Well, little boys, innocent children, don't have to ask anybody for help, and they don't know how. What kind of help? I don't know what kind of help this is. And when you get to be a teenager, and we all know some teenagers, you don't want to even talk to them anymore because you've given up on yourself, because they gave up on you, it seems, and you give up on them. So it gets kind of hostile there. And I want to just give you a little bit of insight into that native alien stage and the stage of the innocent child. The first poem that I wrote was called The Native Alien. And if you think about it, a native, I was born here. I'm here. This is my home. But I was really an outsider. I was an outsider because I couldn't read and write the language. That was for success in school and the workplace later on. And like I told you, this was the first poem I ever wrote. And I want to give you a little bit of more insight into the feeling of those two little personalities or sub-personalities. Native alien, here from there, you can be found everywhere. Going through the motions, showing your emotions. Oh, native alien, you are lame, and littered society plays its games. They keep looking for someone to blame. Isn't that a shame? Don't they have any idea of our pain? It seems so plain, but they keep looking for someone to blame. What a national shame. They give us our promotions, and they put us through the motions. Bluebirds here, redbirds there. Now we have jailbirds everywhere. Oh, how we tried, oh, how we cried. We were just past 5, and how we had to hide. Oh, how we had to hide. Oh, how they stole our pride. Oh, how they lied. Native alien, here from there, native alien everywhere. Shame, shame, we can't read. And how this nation bleeds. But they still will not heed why Johnny, the native alien, still can't read. Oh, how we tried. Oh, how many times has he died? Literate society, you can't hide. Oh, literate society, how come you lied? Scapegoat, cover up, alibi too. Oh, literate society, shame on you. Oh, literate society, you can't hide. Illiterate statistics have your hide while you choke on your own pride. Native alien, he can't read. It limits him, we concede. But he has ideas, concepts, and theories too, and that's a step of thought that you ought to concede too. Now, that's the first poem, and that was the first expression of my anger, my life anger, and I put it on a piece of paper. And putting it on a piece of paper doesn't hurt anybody, but it scares some people. It ruffles people's feathers, and that's not what I wanted to do in my advocacy. You know, I share that with you to let you have the insight and let the world, but you just have to sort it out. And who I am now, I'm not the native alien anymore. I'm a man with a mission. And what I want is to be able to communicate. And I want to tell you about the desperation that we experience and how much we depend on the literate world to understand that urgency of breaking this cycle of illiteracy.
8th grade.
And we can't do it without ourselves.
8th grade.
8th grade. Get me to the 8th grade. She wants me to the 8th grade. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in the 8th grade, and I'm really tired of embarrassing my family and embarrassing myself and all the things that come along with trouble. You know, I didn't want that. So I decided to go underground. I was in high school and I had athletic skills, you know, and I started getting interested in relationships with girls and other people and all those things that happened in high school. So I better go to clean up my act. And I changed my relationship with teachers. And I really became, I guess you'd say, started playing the system. And what do they call when you kiss up to teachers now? What do they call it, kissing up? Teacher's pet, we did. So you start behaving yourself and do things for teachers, be nice and smile. And if you're really nice in high school, behave yourself, you can get a high school diploma. I dated a valedictorian, the smartest girl in school. I hung around with college prep kids. And I would rather be alone than hang around with somebody that was going to take me to get in trouble. And I was smart enough to do that. And I built my oral vocabulary, and I copied those people that knew how to talk and had those big words, you know. And the other thing is, if you were in a group, when you're talking, you can just be quiet. They don't know if you're dumb or smart. But when you're in school, they tell you to read something. You're caught. You got to do something. And I was too big to be invisible, and too big to be to hide all the time. Anyway, I'm in the 8th grade. I'm now in high school. I'm figuring out how to cheat just a little bit, playing the system. I graduate. I have athletic skills. I got athletic scholarship at a Division I school. I'm reading at the 2nd grade level. I can't write a sentence. But what else am I going to do? Maybe I could go to college and I'd get it. And I used to hang around libraries thinking maybe I could just get it, you know, hanging around libraries. But they were also, that's where the girls were hanging out too. So maybe I didn't have that right. I want to go back to the 2nd grade for just a second, because people always ask me, why didn't you just ask for help? Why didn't you ask for help? I went to college and I was on a scholarship, and I could have a tutor anytime I wanted to. But you know what? I couldn't have a tutor because they were the co-eds. You know, they were the girls on campus. I'm not going to be messing up my dating and my social life, you know. And besides, I couldn't trust anybody. If a girl knew you couldn't read, you know another girl's going to know you couldn't read. That's just the way they are. I had 5 sisters. I knew that one. But I didn't trust them either. I didn't trust anybody, and especially in college, because I'd be out. Now I'm in really deep water there. And in college, I really worked on the system. And every course, and I'm not going to be able to tell the details of that college situation, but I want to tell this story about the 2nd grade. When people ask me, why didn't you ask for help? Okay, they're going to let me do it. But I want to tell this one about my reaction sometimes when people ask me questions. Why didn't you ask for help? Well, I already told you when I was a child I could. When I was a teenager, I didn't trust anybody. Then I get into college. I can't ask anybody for help. I'm not going to be going to college anymore. And I also want to tell you that I had an athletic scholarship, but the athletic department and the university didn't have anything to do with me cheating or me getting a degree. I did all the cheating, lying, that on my own. It was my strategy. It was my desperate strategy. When I did ask when I was 8 years old. I used to ask God every night when I was 8 years old in my prayers. I said, please, Lord, tomorrow when the teacher calls on me, let the words come out. Let me be able to read. And I'm working on a Zapper miracle. And you don't get a lot of Zapper miracles because God has a different time schedule for answering prayers, you know. And so I'm saying that prayer. Sometimes I would just get out of bed, turn on the light, and get a book, and try to read it and see if I got it, you know. But it wasn't there. It wasn't there. So I did ask, and then through that, by the time I was a teenager, I quit asking God because I got mad at Him too. Because I didn't, and that's what happens to us. You know, we quit all these things, and it's so depressing, so discouraging. To be outside, and it's such a disconnection. But I do want to go now, jump up to college, and tell you a couple ways that I cheated.
When did you get your Zapper miracle?
Pardon?
When did you get a miracle?
When did I get it? Oh, I got it. I got one yesterday, but I got it when I was 48 years old. And then I was asked if I would share after I learned to read. I learned to read at a public library. They wanted me to tell my story and tell the world and and recruit people and motivate people. And I said, no way. Lived in the same town. My wife was a professional, but but there was a voice inside of me that said, you got to go tell this story. And I asked the native alien if I should go. And he said, don't bother with them. They're not going to listen anyway. So don't tell them and don't trust them. And I asked the little boy. And he said, go do it, man. Go do it. The big people will hear you and they won't let children hurt. Go do it. And so I had this conversations going on in my head, thinking about it. And then I had these literacy people like that lady right there, keep asking me to do something all the time, you know. And they don't quit. They just keep asking until you say yes. I asked my wife. I didn't ask her. I just said, Kathy, they're asking me to speak publicly. And, you know, I was just throwing it out. You know how husbands and wives do? They just throw the little bait out there and see if anybody bites on it. And her first opinion was it. She says, why don't you just shut up and read? That's where she was, you know. So, and I understand that, looking back at it. Now, I got to go to college and tell you at least one or two stories about how I cheated my way through college. And this is not fun for me to stand up here and tell you I'm a cheater and a liar. This is not fun. This is why I didn't want to tell the story. I still don't like telling it right now. Matter of fact, I'm trying to delay and run the clock out, so I don't even have to tell that story. But I will tell you a few things. In college, I belonged to a social fraternity, and social fraternities kind of kept the files and the test of professors. You know, like there was a lazy professor that gave he had 3 exams, and every 3 years, you know, he'd give the same exam, a different exam. So all you had to do is find out what year you were on, what rotation it was, and when you go in and take that test, you got the answers. And that's one way. And that was an easy way. But I had some challenges, and I had a challenge in Dr. Gregory's class, who was a government teacher. And essay. First, another thing I used to do, is to check out the teacher. Do they give essays? Stay away from those essays, man. They're really tough. Or even short answers. You know, they're a little tougher. But I figured a way out all of them. Dr. Gregory, final exam, 4 questions. 1 was a bonus. 3 were required. Midterm, final. She write them on the board. And nobody knew what she was going to write on the board. And I don't even think Dr. Gregory knew what she was going to write on the board. I think she was maybe 90, 100 years old. But she wasn't lazy. And I had to make a plan for that. And I had this buddy who was brilliant, very smart. And I asked him if he would assist me in a plan that I had to get through Dr. Gregory's class. And he was willing. He's a shy guy, by the way. And what the plan was and what we did was, it was springtime, first floor, open the window, sit in the back of the room, painstaking copy those questions off the board. You know, when I say painstaking, it'd be like if I put Chinese up on the screen there and gave you a pad and pencil, I'd say, copy that for me. You could copy it, but you wouldn't know what it said. And that's what the scribes did too. They copied, but they didn't know. I passed it out the window to him. And I know when you're lying and cheating, you're not supposed to pray. But I'm praying for an hour and 45 minutes that he knew the answers to those questions and that he was going to get that blue book back into my hands. And another thing, you had to be cautious. You had to really plan this thing. You sit behind the older students because the older students are going to rat you out if they see something like that. If your peers see it, they just think you're clever. Good. That's I wish I could do that myself. Attitude. Anyway, he got the exam back in. I turned it in. I passed Dr. Gregory's test, and I told you he was shy. He wanted to go to the spring formal with a girl by the name of Judy. I arranged that for him. And that's what you do when you're young, you know? And sometimes people ask me, well, why would anybody want to do that? Well, these are the same kinds of personalities when you're 18, 19 years old that put a Volkswagen on the second floor of the girls' dorm, you know? Hey, nothing else to do, you know? Now, do I have time for this last one or not?
Yeah.
Okay, I get to go ahead with the Mission Impossible, we'll call it. I had a professor that I couldn't figure out how I was going to get through this course. And he had 2 exams, and he came, you know, some of you that have been in school, and most of you have been in school, the professor was reading off the exam. I knew he had it, and he was saying, now, if you know this, you're going to do fine. If you know this, you're going to do fine. And he did that two or three times, meetings, and he said, that's what's going to be on the exam. And I went over to visit him one night. This is about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, to his office, which was on the second floor of the business administration building. And he wasn't there. So I opened the window, and I used a butter knife to unlock it. And I went in his office, and I looked around. I knew it was in there. I knew he wouldn't take it home. It had to be in there. Looked around, looked through the drawers and everywhere, the shelves and so on. Couldn't find it. It wasn't there. So I left discouraged. Did that 2 or 3 nights and found the same thing. The test is getting closer, and I had to do something. So I got 3 of my...
John, you didn't tell him there was a file cabinet that wasn't...
Oh, there was a file cabinet. I was going to do that, but Kath, you never give me a chance. We've been married for 48 years. And she's filled in a lot.
49.
49. It's been so much fun. I didn't know it was that long. Anyway, there was a file cabinet in there, but it was locked. And so I got some guys, a crew together, you know, and 3 guys. And there were 4 of us. We went in there and carried out the 4-drawer file cabinet. And 4-drawer file cabinets are heavy. You know, they got paper in them. And but we're young, and we got it, put it in the car, drove off campus to an apartment, not far, 3 or 4 blocks off campus. I lived in the athletic dorm, and these were some buddies of mine, and called the locksmith, and I had already checked on the locksmith, and the locksmith came out. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. It was about 2:30, I guess, and I put my suit and tie on, you know, looked like a young businessman, and I got to win the Oscar for this one. You got to go all the way. I mean, the guy, the locksmith, he doesn't care what it is. He just wants a check, you know, in the middle of the night. But I'm playing it out, and he comes over there, and he does his magic, and he opens the file cabinet. I got the test, and I got to get the file cabinet back now. We got to get it back. I got the test. And I also got something else. I got a bonus. I wasn't really even thinking about, but I got a key to the file cabinet, which gave me an opportunity to take another class from the professor. Anyway, we get it back into the office, and my buddies dropped me off at the athletic dorm where I lived, and 100 athletes lived in that dorm. And I was walking upstairs, and I was thinking, mission impossible, accomplished. You know, I'm clever, lucky. You know, why would anybody do anything so desperate as this? And I go get in bed, and I lay my head down on the pillow, and I start crying, and I start weeping like a baby, because not only am I violating the trust my mother and father put in me, and they thought I was away at school getting a college education, but I moved from just a cheat and a liar. Now I'm really a burglar. I'm really a criminal. And so I tell that story, and I'm embarrassed about all of that. But it was about our desperation, my desperation, my only way out. And I was trying to me, looking back, is that I was always curious about learning. And I think everybody in here is curious about learning. Isn't it nice to learn? Isn't it exciting to learn something? And I needed literacy, the passport to success in school and the passport in the workplace. And I wanted it. And that's what I did. And I have to say, I know as a child you understand, you can be empathetic. And as a teenager, you can understand me being a teenager and being crazy. And you can understand trying to get through high school. It gets a little bit more complicated as I go out of college and I teach school for 17 years. And a teacher is a seeker of truth. And I'm lying, even though I'm doing some things that are very helpful and progressive, the things that I did in the classroom. I was certainly empathetic and I worked hard, and I had more guest speakers than anybody in the whole county. I showed more videos and movies than anybody else. I didn't have a dumb row in my classroom. I had a row and a circle. There she is again. Jumping in there. I would have caught it, Kathy. Anyway, and I'm not going to tell you much more about that teaching. This may sound like a commercial, and it kind of is, but the rest of the story is in the book. But what I really came here to do is to validate what you're doing in North Carolina and validate what these folks are all doing, and to say, let's move the pot, the simmering pot, up to the front burner. And to solve the problem of illiteracy, we have to articulate the problem first. We have to have an understanding of it. And for struggling readers and adults, we have to really truly believe. And I'm here to congratulate you for your efforts. Don't give up. It's never too late to learn. Thank you for being here.